Okay. Hi, friends. Hi, friend. Go lay down, baby. Go lay down. Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Square of Self-Love. I am Kiyatana Square, fourth-year medical student passionate about mental wellness and helping others learn more about themselves and fall further and further in love with themselves. So excited to kick off your self-love journey and talk about essential things to consider when starting your self-love journey. I wasn't really sure how to kind of get this started, but I think, the best thing to talk about is kind of that bare bones, how do you build your foundation? Because I imagine if you're anything similar to me, when I started my self-love journey, or rather paid more attention to my self-love journey, because I think in some ways we all kind of know we should treat ourselves in a certain way and we should, carry ourselves a certain way. But I think once you're more cognizant of that, and when you're more intentional about your self-love journey, that's really when you see the most difference. So I wanted to talk about just things to consider when you're starting to be more intentional about your self-love journey. First, I wanted to ask you all to please subscribe, like this episode, share this with anyone you know who may benefit from it. And we're going to talk about one person in particular to share this with, but share, subscribe to my channel. And if you're listening to this on an audio, podcast platform, please leave a review and share this to someone you love as well. Okay, so let's get started. I'm really excited about today's episode. And I originally wanted it to be 4 points, like a square. I know. But I honestly couldn't stick to just 4. So these aren't in any main particular order, but these are all the things that I think are really essential just to starting your intentional self-love journey. So number 1 is going to be identifying how you should treat yourself. This can kind of be vague and very duh. But think about how you treat the people that you care about in your life, right? Think about how you treat your loved ones, your family, your friends, some of your best friends, those people who, you wouldn't dare judge super harshly or, speak down to. Think about how you treat them. Now, is that similar to how you treat yourself? And that's really the big thing. That was for me a lot of the indication that I needed to work on my self-love, just the way that I felt like I was pouring into others and kind of just leaving for myself whatever was left over. And it definitely began to show because I was drained, I was tired, I always just kind of neglected my own self-care. And I more particularly remember this when I first started medical school. It was kind of a time where, my time was just limited, and it's really, really, really hard to tend to your basic needs as far as obviously your basic needs like eating and sleeping, but even that was iffy. But so, it's really hard to kind of prioritize those things when you feel like you have so much that you're balancing and you have so much to do. And it's of course I know, the ironic thing was that we were always getting speeches on self-help and wellness and take care of yourself. But it was how am I supposed to do that? I don't have any time to do anything. So it was kind of, frustrating in that way. But once I just made the time, really, it's going to feel inconvenient. And when you think about it, you're usually so used to prioritizing other things than prioritizing yourself. So it doesn't feel convenient, to start out. But once you get into the flow of it and you start to see just how much it benefits you to take care of these things, that's when it starts to feel more convenient. So first to start, I would say, how should you treat yourself? So what are the things or areas where you're just kind of like overlooking them, glazing over them, like whatever, I'll get to it. And it's for you, like it's pertaining to your wellness. It's going to help you, have more energy throughout the day. It's going to help you not binge eat or eat junk food just because you're trying to get by. So one of the things that I kind of started with was packing my lunch. So I love packing my lunch. And so one of the things that I started doing when I was studying for the MCAT was making my lunch and doing it pretty consistently. We had long hours where we would be studying in one building for the whole day. And so I just kind of really appreciated not having to worry about like where I was going to eat, what I was going to eat, the whole like question log. And I really became more conscious of just like how often we think about what we're going to eat throughout the day. So I made it a habit to just make my lunch when I was studying for the MCAT. Got into medical school, that completely fell out the window. Like it was just like, I'll eat whatever, whenever. And I really started to notice like just poor energy, I gained like crazy weight. And so it was just like, I could definitely see the consequences of it. And I thought, I enjoy cooking. I end up cooking most of my meals anyway. So it wasn't like I would go, to campus, study, and then like either I would go out to eat and spend money, which was like a waste. But then like if I wanted to save money, I would just go back home and cook. So it wasn't like I wasn't going to cook for myself. So I figured, I'd meal prep and then I'd actually stick to making myself a lunch. And it took like 2 years into medical school when I was studying for STEP, which is one of our pretty big board exams. And it took then for me to get to a solid routine, really commit to it, and just really rely on it. And I think just from doing that was like one less thing I had to worry about. That was also like just so much gratification once I was like making my lunch like in the middle of the day and I didn't have to worry about it. And I think about the ways that I treat other people as far as like my love language is acts of service. And so I love like making people food. I love bringing people things, like making their life a little bit more convenient. And that's the thing that I realized I needed to do for myself. Like just do something, like treat yourself like that. So if you can identify one thing, and it might be a little abstract or vague to even think about, but think about just how you treat people. Start with your love language. That could be really like a really good way to like kind of evaluate, what do I need to feel like I'm loving myself? So start with your love language. Like, if it's acts of service, if it's quality time, spend time with yourself, like go on a walk, journal, because really that is how you will like feel like you're pouring into yourself. And it doesn't have to be like an hour, 3 hours. It can be like 20 minutes every day. And I just like got into the habit of making my lunch at night before I went to bed, and I would just like pop it in the fridge. So then it was already ready. All I had to do was grab it. And it's not easy and it's not convenient. And I'm not saying it's like, bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, take the time. Like you won't be upset for taking the time. It will take some getting used to, but it's so worth it. So number 2 is forgive yourself. You might be like, well, what do you mean forgive myself? Like, I'm fine. And you probably are. But the truth is, you neglected yourself. And that can be hard to recognize. And like more often than not, you have consequences for neglecting yourself, right? You might have gained weight. You might have missed out on opportunities because you weren't taking care of yourself. You might have had, consequences. You might have lost people. You might have put someone over yourself. So while you gain someone, that person doesn't treat you the way you should be treated or doesn't value you the way you should value you. And so there's a layer there that you really just have to forgive yourself. And I usually identify what I need to forgive myself on if I'm ruminating on it, or if I'm like constantly thinking about it, or if I feel guilty, or like if I just like get frustrated with myself about something. So a perfect example, when I got into medical school and I gained like crazy weight. I think I essentially gained like 30 pounds the first 2 years of medical school. And it was crazy because like I also got older, right? So like I got into medical school when I was 25 Yeah, 25. So I started medical school when I was 25. So like 25 to 30, you usually do like gain just some like adult weight. And it gets a little harder for you to like shed that. And so that was happening, but also I was eating trash. Like I would cook when I could, but when I couldn't, it was just like, I'll do what I can. And I was not sticking to like a consistent workout routine. Like I would try to go to the gym and I'd get a good groove going, but I could never stick with it. And so I essentially gained like 30 pounds. Like when I first started medical school, I had the worst sleep habits. I was always drinking energy drinks. And honestly, y'all, part of this is still going on. Don't think I'm perfect, but I'm still like working on getting a steady sleep routine. Like I'm really committed to like exercising now and like working out, and I really enjoy that. But like I'm still working on aspects of this. So when I say forgive yourself, like you're going to have to continuously forgive yourself. And that's kind of congruent with your self-love journey. So when it comes to forgiving yourself, forgive yourself for, I would beat myself up. I'd be like, oh my goodness, I don't like my body, like blah, 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 blah. Like, if I could only wear like this. I threw out like so many of my clothes and like, I felt like nothing looked good on me. And I would still go out. I'd still have a good time. But like my pictures, I stopped even caring what the pictures look like, because half the time I would not like I wouldn't like them. And so I was just like, whatever, it looks good enough, I'll post it, So a lot of those photos, it just like, I would look back and I feel guilty. So forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for being human. Forgive yourself for eating during a major life event or a big stressor. Like that's normal. Like you focused on something else, and honestly you might not have been able to focus on anything. But the point is, like, forgive yourself. You holding that over your head is equivalent to someone actually like verbally abusing you or emotionally abusing you for something that you might have done, a year, 5 years, 10 years ago. And so you just have to forgive yourself. That's the first thing that's really going to free you from that mindset and keep you out of, that backslide. So number 2, huge, forgive yourself. Okay, let's dip into number 3, and that's learn how to trust yourself. So part of that forgiving is learning, so once you've forgiven yourself, you then have to learn how to trust yourself. And this can be hard as well. I mean, none of this is easy. Like, I feel like I have constantly had to rely on these foundational tools, when I'm checking myself, because I do frequent checks of self-love. When I say trust yourself, I'm saying you have to be confident that you won't fall for the same traps. And, I'm a woman of God. And so I do believe, we are tested over and over in the same way if we continue to fail that test. And, oftentimes once you get through that test, a lot of the other tests that you pass will look similar to that, but it'll be a no-brainer. It'll be like, oh, I've done this before, I'm not doing it again. It'll be like, and what's crazy? That you've evolved or you've, really worked on your self-love when you see the same test and it doesn't even take you seconds to be like, nope, not at all, not falling for it. And it's crazy. I just certain people in my life who have emulated similar events that in the past I probably would have been like, oh, well, it's fine. It's fine. And I'll explain it away and I'll justify it in a way that like doesn't serve me and honestly discounts the way I should be valued and treated. And now it's almost like I could have those circumstances or be in those situations and I'm just like, absolutely not, hard pass, goodbye. Like it's not something that I even have to think about. It just becomes natural because I know what I deserve and I know how I would treat people. I can't accept, anything less than what I would be willing to do for people. So I think that's really big, just learning to trust yourself and knowing, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I deserve. I know that I can achieve what I want for myself. When it comes to, you see the snack or whatever that, you used to binge eat. Mine was like Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Honestly, low key, it's very frequently Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And just knowing, like, I know that if I eat those, it's going to mess up my stomach. transparency, right? Like, I'm not going to be okay in like 45 minutes, but whatever. I'm going to probably fall for the same trap the next day. So it's not like I am like, oh my goodness, you know, once I say no to this today, it'll be so easy to say it tomorrow. No, like, it's a constant thing. But when you learn to like, I know all the consequences, right? And you have to trust those consequences too. Like, trust that what happened to you will happen again, like, more than not. It's probably going to happen again in the same fashion, in the same way, within the same time span. Like, you just have to trust that, like, you experienced it exactly the way you were supposed to experience it. Like, nothing about your experience was flawed or faulty. Like, you felt that. Like, you weren't overthinking. You weren't like all up in your head. You weren't paranoid. Like, whatever. If anybody tried to like gaslight you, no, that's not what was happening. You experienced it exactly the way you should have experienced it. And you know those encounters where you're like, that's my like. If you know me, you know that when I make this noise, like, I'm reassessing a lot more than what's in front of me. When I'm like, I just don't, like, to me, that's like, when I'm doing that, I'm like, did this just happen in the way that I experienced it? And this is a big part of that question. If I observed this, if I took myself out of this situation and I observed this encounter, what would I expect for the other person to do? So, like, you know, the person in my shoes, what would I expect them to do in this encounter? Because oftentimes I can witness something like out of pocket and I'll be like, did I just see that? And then I'll watch it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is actually happening. So, and sometimes it's like watching a movie, right? Like, when you watch a movie and you are shocked or stunned and you see how something's going on, and it's so easy to put together, that was disrespectful. That should not have happened. That is wild, you know? That's a bad idea. And so it's almost like I have to put myself in that zone. And then, because a lot of times when it's happening to me, I might justify against it. I might, want to explain it away, but I have to be honest with myself and I have to trust that what I'm seeing is legitimately what's going on and what's happening. And the way I feel is justified at a baseline. Like, I don't have to justify it or explain it to myself. Like, I get it. I know. So there's a lot to be said. And you also have to trust your reaction, right? A lot of times working on your self-love, you feel less obligated to go over the top and like over explain. I feel like I've gotten really good at like not emotionally reacting, and I think that's really due to medicine. Just being in the hospital and having like a lot of things go on, I think you have to kind of get into the zone of, processing and thinking about a lot, but, reacting very mildly, very like controlled. So when you're strengthening your self-love, you get a better ability in like not really reacting, because truthfully, if you can trust this is the situation, this is what it is, I'm seeing it for what it is, it's less about getting the other person to understand, what the situation is or why they should also feel the same way as you. And it's more about what are you going to do about it? And that goes for, okay, you have this, that goes back to forgiving yourself. You have this excess weight, and sorry guys, I keep using weight because that was what was personal to me, but you have this consequence that you're kind of sitting in, and it's like, okay, that's the situation and that is what it is, but what are you going to do about it? Like, what can we do to now no longer be in this space? Because I know you're tired. I was tired. Like, I was tired of feeling bad about myself and being upset with myself. And so I really had to, work through these just to get to a point where I could say, okay, well, what's my plan? Like, how do I want to move forward from this? So trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. You got this far in life. You're old enough. You're wise enough. You have life experiences behind you that has shaped the way you see things. And you can confidently say, you see things correctly. Like, it's funny that you have to kind of walk people through all of that, but trust yourself. So anyway, okay, so if you're afraid of heights, it's almost like if someone's like, do you want to go skydiving? And you're afraid of heights, very few of us would have to think about that answer. Like, no. And even if you are thinking about it, let's say, you get in the plane and you're looking down and you're like, no. That is almost how fast it should be for you to be like trusting yourself. Like, you trust in that moment. It's a no for you. Like, this isn't the situation that you want to be in. Now, I don't know that they actually let you not jump. I don't know. I've never skydived. I grapple with the idea, but truthfully, knowing myself, I think I should just stay away from it. But anyway, I think, I don't know if they like take you back down. I can't imagine they like push you out. I don't know. Comment below if you've ever skydived and what your experience was like, honestly. Or, comment below what your experience has been like, just learning to trust yourself. Like, that's hard. It is hard because it's like, that's one of the rare instances where you can ask other people's opinion on the situation, but like, truthfully, it relies on you. Like, what you do with that information is on you. So anyway, I'm rambling and I have to get through this. So number 4. So I want you to envision what your circumstances would look like if you implemented the self-love you feel you should. So, if you implemented that self-love that you feel like you should have, and you give yourself that attention that you feel you deserve, how would your situation look different? What would change? And if your answer is nothing, okay. But if you're like, I'd probably be, happier with myself. I'd probably be, sad for a moment because it's, I'm losing something, but I think in the long run, I'd actually be much more content with my life. I could achieve certain things. And so just thinking about that, and even like, I'm in medical school, and if I'm, not taking care of myself, if I look like I have self-love, I'd be a exceptional student. I'd be succeeding as a student, but I'd also be in love with myself and caring for myself and feel more just at peace with how I'd come about through my journey, at peace with how I came through my journey. And so I think, and 2, that shows with other aspects of my life. So I'd be able to tend to my family. I'd be able to interact with my peers outside of school. And so just having that sense of, what am I working towards? This is how you establish those goals of, okay, what do I want to achieve then? What is my self-love going to help me achieve? So just thinking about that. Okay. Number 5, stop criticizing yourself so harshly. Stop criticizing yourself so harshly. I feel like when you are really working on your self-love, you literally have to turn off that negative self-talk. You have to stop voicing what you don't like about yourself. And honestly, how like sometimes you'll compliment someone just like naturally. And I feel like I was always the type of person who would compliment other people because I do like compliments. But the truth is, I wasn't complimenting myself, right? Like, you're so quick to give out compliments, but you won't give them to yourself. So stop criticizing yourself so harshly. Compliment yourself every day. Every time you look in the mirror, I want you to pick one thing that you like about yourself. Yes, it sounds superficial, I know, but this is how you start that trend, right? And then you'll just kind of carry that out. There will be certain interactions and I'll be like, I like how I handled that. There will be certain, conversations that I have, and I'll think to myself, I like how I communicated that. Those compliments evolve, but it starts somewhere. It has to start somewhere. Example, I am not a middle part girly. Clearly today I'm wearing a middle part. However, I would always be like, I just hate how I look at the middle part, my forehead, blah, blah, blah. And, it was always something, but I had to be more cognizant of, how is that affecting me? How is that benefiting me? It's probably not. And so how about I just, instead of saying something negative, when they say like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Exactly that. If you don't have anything nice to say about yourself, don't say anything at all. And make something like immediately stop in your tracks and then flip it and make a compliment. even if it's not exactly how you feel, but just make a compliment for yourself. Oh my goodness, I hate how these jeans, I really like my shoes today. Like, or, oh my goodness, I hate how I just never can get to bed on time. I think I do my best with what I can. Like, you really have to just get out of that, because that's a part of like forgiving yourself and not guilting yourself. Like, you're not about to like beat up on yourself for the rest of the day about one thing. I'm guilty of this. Like, I will have one thing and I'm like, oh my goodness, and it takes more mental space than anything. Like, it's like, if you just let it go, you just let it go and you just do what you got to do, you're probably going to be fine. Stop criticizing yourself so harshly. And then too, when you work on your self-love, I feel like me personally, I became so much less judgmental to other people, just because I feel like it's just one of those things where I stopped criticizing myself. And so I stopped criticizing what I saw in other people. Like, it just kind of like naturally, I became less critical overall. And so that's huge. Like, nobody really wants someone who's just like hypercritical and always, you need to do this. That's exhausting. So, and I mean, I don't know that I was ever like that. Maybe I was, who knows? But I just know that, you stop focusing on like the things that just really, I have to say, like, don't matter. Like, you get hyper zoomed in on and this was probably the biggest thing. I was so critical of myself because I was comparing myself to other people who had what I felt like I should have for myself. And that's crazy. Like, you get so critical of yourself when you compare yourself to other people who are living totally different lives than you, who have totally different resources, totally different experiences. Like, comparing yourself is crazy. Like, okay, I'm not gonna say that because it's something natural. We all do it. But you cannot get fixated on those comparisons, because 9 times out of 10, you're making it way more than what it actually is. That's the zinger to comparison. We only compare what we see, and you usually hype that up so much. Oh my goodness, look at their body. Oh my goodness, look at their hair, oh my goodness, look at their life. But you're seeing a microscopic piece of what their actually experiences. You don't know how they feel. You don't know what's going on in their life. That in social media, makes it so easy for people to tailor what you actually see. But it's like, truthfully, do you actually want that? Or is it just one shiny, glimmery thing that you think is pretty? And then 2, what about the life you have? Somebody is looking at your life right now thinking, wow, if I could just be like them. And you would never know it. And that's the crazy part, is like, you're so quick to just like down on yourself, but truthfully, like, you don't know who's comparing themselves to you, and you don't want to compare yourself to somebody. It's a trap. You're never fulfilled when you live like that. So truthfully, going back to, the point, stop criticizing yourself so harshly. Okay. All right. And our last one. This one is really big and I'm really excited about it. And I'm so excited for it. I added this last night while I was in the gym, and it made me so much more excited to even record this. So, get a self-love accountability partner. Okay, hear me out. When I was really investing in my self-love journey, a lot of it was stimulated because I felt so alone. I felt alone even when I was surrounded with people. And we're going to go into kind of how it's time to focus on your self-love. And I think originally that was going to be my first episode, but I think, giving you the tools to at least start is pretty much the big thing. So getting yourself a self-love accountability partner, someone whose relationship mirrors what you would like to have for yourself. So you have a healthy relationship with this person. This person values you and appreciates you openly and honestly. And there's someone who can also hold you accountable, who, if they told you something you probably didn't want to hear, you would receive it and not get defensive. And this is going to be a very vulnerable time for you, where you're honestly seeking to understand how you can better love yourself. And, love in any exchange is a vulnerable position. Like, to love someone, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, because you're trusting that person with, tools that no one else has, that they can potentially, use against you should things go wrong or whatever have you. So you have to really have that sense of, who can I trust to be in my circle right now? Who can I trust to understand that I'm going through, and I'm really being more intentional about how I feel about myself, how I treat myself. And I would like for you to hold me accountable in that way. When I'm verbally talking down on myself, it doesn't have to be a long speech. It could just be it could be very brief. It doesn't have to be, them pulling you aside or whatever the case may be. And maybe, they might pull you aside and they might be like, look, I can't do this for you. Like, you're not listening, And so that might put you in a position, it's like a coach where you have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, look, like, I'm really trying, I'm working on this. Like, let me really get in gear. And so I think having a self-love accountability partner is so good, and they could be going through it with you. You could journal with this person, even on Zoom or on the phone, and you take 20 minutes of silence and you guys journal, and it doesn't have to be you necessarily sharing what's going on or like what you're really unpacking, but it could just be that sense of, if it's hard for you to make time for this is that person who's willing to make the time with you. And if you have a spouse or you have a partner who is also kind of going through this, I think if you are in a space where you have to prioritize your self-love, I don't think you should be in a relationship. I don't think you should date while, really working on that. But I recognize, 1, self-love is an ongoing journey. 2, some people are married and, in relationships that they love the person, so they're not going to leave them. Like, it could, and you could have a healthy relationship, but you not tending to your self-love might be impacting that relationship. And so having your partner as your partner or your spouse as your self-love accountability partner is perfectly fine, even if it's a good friend. I feel like my self-love accountability partner is my mom. And just anytime that, I talk negatively about myself, she'll be like, oh, no, we're not doing that. So yeah, just having, and I really trust my mom's opinion. I trust her input. And so when she is willing to tell me something that I probably don't want to hear, I listen to that. Now, we're going to get into those people who feel obligated to share with you what you probably don't want to hear, but that's all they share with you. That is not accountability. They just don't like you. But that's for another episode. So you don't want your accountability partner should not be someone who is not nice to you, someone who is hypercritical, someone you don't trust, someone you have to forgive, someone who has wronged you and now you are in a position to need to forgive them. Like, any of these past points, if they fall under that, no, that's not your accountability partner. And you might not have anyone who can hold you accountable, because for a long time I felt like I was kind of just waffling through it by myself. But reach out to me. I'm happy to just kind of check in with people and just even through DMs or even on Zooms. I have a plan for something that I want to do kind of as a community, and so hopefully I can kind of establish something like that. But in the meantime, that is so big. Having a self-love accountability partner is going to be really big for you. And don't make that your whole theme. Start now. Start working on your self-love. And then that'll come naturally. You might, the crazy thing is, and like I said, I'm spiritual, I'm Christian. And so I truly feel like sometimes you have to start that walk by yourself just to get to the people that you're meant to meet. It might look like you going on this journey by yourself, but who knows at what point you'll meet the people that you needed to meet to propel that journey, to keep it going. That's the thing. You have to trust that this is your time and you have the tools to do it correctly and do what you need to do. So those are my points, and I'm just so excited for this episode. I think it's going to be a great way to start, a great platform, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, please subscribe to my channel, follow my podcast wherever you may be listening to this. Please leave a comment if you've ever skydived. Or tag your accountability, self-love accountability partner. Share it with your self-love accountability partner. And then, really get excited about this. It's not like you're saying you are better than anyone. You are just the most important aspect of your life. Because if you don't care for yourself, then you're not going to be able to care for anyone else. So you're doing this to improve your other relationships, and you really have to believe that. And you have to make sure it's in a healthy way. You're not getting arrogant. We're not saying, oh my goodness, everyone should bow down to me. No, because they have their own self-love journey that also needs to be tended to. But you doing this in a healthy way might be the perfect model for them to actually take on that practice themselves. And so it will benefit your other relationships and your other situations, but you have to first start with yourself. You are the main ingredient in your, life, and you have to really believe that. So, all of that to say, like I said, please follow me wherever you listen to this. Follow me on Instagram at square_of self_love. So it's square of self-love with a bunch of little periods sprinkled. But yeah, so please follow me, and I look forward to seeing you guys later. So